Hello Summoners and welcome to another episode of our underrated picks. My name is Christoph and in this video we're going to be covering picks on patch 9.15 who don't receive the hype that they deserve. There are plenty of excellent picks that people need to play more and we're here to show you who they are. Feel free to leave any comments or feedback below and also let us know if you think we missed any champions. Also, before we get into the video, I want you guys to check out our website ProGuides.com using the link below. Our Pro Pass gets you exclusive access to pro courses and coaches. Over 100,000 gamers have used InstaPro and have ranked up significantly, so don't miss out on this opportunity and see huge improvements to your rank using the description link below. Now without further ado, let's jump right in. Alright, so as always, let's begin with the top lane. First up is Fiora, one of League's greatest split pushers. She's able to take over games anytime she pulls ahead. While she might not be someone you can first time and expect to see results, more experienced Fiora players are able to create leads through outplays and understanding their limits. You can say that about most champions, but it really holds true with Fiora because of her high mobility and her parry. As a result, she's an extremely high skill ceiling and can make some insane outplays. Although she's in the middle of the pack in terms of play rate, it's quite surprising she's not higher. An added bonus is that she's a great counter pick to some of the most popular top laners right now. We didn't feature her in our Pro Counter series this time because it seems like players don't give her the hype that she deserves. Champions that are terrorizing the top lane like Kled, Aatrox, and Mordekaiser have difficulty playing versus her because of how their abilities interact with each other. When laning, make sure to poke with your Q anytime you can reach vitals on your opponent. If they're on a side lane that's difficult to hit, you can back off into Fog of War to reset it and make it easier to hit. In more difficult matchups, try to farm for items, especially lifesteal, to help you continue farming and scaling. Very few champions can fight a Fiora 1v1 once she has some items under her belt. In a late game, you want to split push and set up vision for yourself. You'll want to group with your team by flanking opponents who are overextended, or if you're confident you can carry team fights. The most effective use of Fiora's kit, however, is committing to split pushing in the side lane. In spite of his absolute dominance over the competitive scene in solo queue in the past, Urgot isn't seeing nearly as much play as before. After receiving some nerfs and changes, his popularity dropped, but the statistics show his power hasn't. He's still able to dominate games with his insane kill pressure in lane and ridiculous team fighting. Similar to Fiora, he's a great counter to many of the most popular champions, but he definitely doesn't receive the amount of recognition he deserves. He's a strong champion that can find ways to be useful in nearly every game. During the laning phase, look for long trades when you have several changes of your passive, W, and E off cooldown. Once you get your opponent low, you can look to all in with your ultimate and try to execute them. In the mid to late game, push in side lanes and look for opportunities to flank. Urgot is an amazing team fighter, especially when he can catch out a target and immediately execute them with his ultimate. The AoE fear off of his execute is a great way to initiate fights or lock down foes to secure victories. Adventures out there, so let's explore the jungle next. Zac is a pick that doesn't receive much play in spite of his ability to carry games. Sporting long engage range, hard CC, and decent damage, Zac is capable of making game-winning engages and significantly impacting team fights. As Zac, you'll want to clear your jungle to either level 3 or 4 and start ganking immediately. Because of the range in your E, there are so many angles you can approach from to catch your opponents off guard. What many teams lack in solo queue is the ability to force team fights, though. Zac remedies this and is able to do so on a rather short cooldown since he doesn't rely on his ultimate to force plays. When ahead, he becomes a giant nuisance that enemies will have to commit resources to stop, whether it's spending more money on wards or building grievous wounds to make him easier to kill. Another overlooked pick in the jungle is Jax. He scales hard, is simple to play, and is equally as adept at farming and ganking. An added bonus is that Master Yi is starting to gain more popularity, so we might be seeing Jax as a common counter pick. When playing Jax, make sure to consider ganking at level 2. With a point-and-click gap closer and a simple stun to follow up, you have a good chance of finding a kill or burning summoners. In cases where this might hurt your pathing, you can instead opt to power farm your jungle while looking for gank opportunities during your clear. During the mid-game, look to force small skirmishes or play with a numbers advantage. Use your ult proactively anytime you find yourself in a fight. It's crucial as it'll let you survive longer and therefore output more damage. Also, make sure to keep up your farm. You need to maintain a steady income to become a late game monster that you're destined to be. If it's necessary, you can start split pushing. Although it's not ideal, it's still an option, and when the rest of your team is too far behind, you might need to put on the carry pants. Alright, on to the mid lane. If you guys are interested in getting better at mid lane this season, then please check out ProGuides.com using the description link below. We have a ton of great resources to help you out. Our first mid lane pick is NEEKO. She's a solid team fighter with excellent wave clear, meaning she's safe and reliable. In solo queue, any champion who can utilize the Glacial Augment build holds advantages over their opponents, and NEEKO is no exception. Pick making and carrying team fights are the two best ways to carry games as NEEKO, and these also lead to opportunities for her to take objectives as well. you don't need to be too far ahead as NEEKO to carry games. In the early game, play to either farm safely or poke your opponents whenever they try to farm. Make sure to shoot your E through a minion first to extend the root duration and follow it up with a Q. By slowly poking your opponent, you can eventually look for solo kills, but again, you don't need to if it's too dangerous. Once you finish Twin Shadows and Hextech GLP, you're going to have the ability to make picks and force team fights. Once you have those items finished, make sure to always be on the lookout for mispositioned foes, or use those items to seal the fate of enemies trying to run away during team fights. Especially in the jungle within choke points, look for opportunities to trap your enemies in tight corridors. They'll make it significantly easier to hit multiple opponents and top the damage charts in the post-game data graphs. Our next pick is Rumble. While he might come off as an oddball, surprise pick to many, Rumble players have already been aware of his strength as a mid laner for a while now. Although he's received nerfs this patch, he's still able to dominate lane in good matchups because his damage remains untouched. The fact that he dishes out insane damage without relying on mana makes him difficult to play against. During the laning phase, look for opportunities to take either heavy or quick trades depending on your opponent. Using both Q and W simultaneously, you can block damage, waste your opponent's mana, and also trade back a good chunk of damage. Once your opponents get low, you can start stacking your heat up and look for all-ins. Anytime you can take lane priority, look to roam to a side lane. Your ultimate ability's cast range as well as the long distance it covers makes you a potent ganker. Take advantage of this since it usually is quite easy to take lane priority as Rumble. Make sure to look for team fights and choke points as well, and just like NEEKO, Rumble thrives in small corridors as they allow him to cast disgusting ults that'll burn his enemies to a crisp. Alright, next up is the bot lane. It's no surprise since he's an insane hyper carry that Twitch is dominating the Rift. Carrying a high win rate but an abysmally low play rate, it's kind of a shocker that players aren't picking him more often. While he may be risky to pick, he hits a huge power spike once he finishes Blade of the Ruined King. Paired with his stealth, he can constantly force fights aggressively, extending them to try and kill his opponents. As a result of his stealth, it can be extremely difficult for his opponents to safely farm should they ever fall behind. Sivir and Ezreal are popular picks, but they simply lack kill pressure on Twitch, giving him many opportunities to scale up for free. Remember that when you play Twitch, you don't need to force plays if they're risky. You scale insanely hard, so you only need to play aggressively or make plays when it's smart to do so. Another thing you should take advantage of is your ability to roam mid with or without your support. Using your stealth, you can avoid wards and surprise the enemy mid laner by popping out of the shadows and throwing some sewage at them. Our second bot lane pick is SYNDRA. Mage bot laners aren't something new. We've even seen them picked on many occasions in professional play. SYNDRA received some small buffs to her ultimate this patch that'll bump up her kill pressure. Especially when paired with aggressive supports, she's able to lock down her opponents and deal terrifying amounts of damage in short periods of time. In lane, look to poke your opponents with Q or Q and E whenever they try to farm. In cases where they outrange you, you can instead use your abilities to farm or hold them to try to pressure aggressive trades with your support. Once you hit level 6, you'll want to look for opportunities to trade heavily so that you can find kills with your ultimate. Try your best to space out your crowd control from your lane partners. It doesn't need to be frame perfect, but you definitely want to avoid stacking stuns, as the moments you lose can be the difference between life or death. Alright, to wrap it up, let's talk about supports. Well, we mentioned him in our last video, TARIC is making the list again. Last patch, he was the least played support in the game. He's equipped with Sustain, his iconic ultimate, and strong all-in, so this comes at a pretty big surprise. Yes, players just can't handle all that fabulous. When we say strong all-in, we really mean it though. His passive provides him a 100% attack speed bonus as well as extra damage on his next 2 auto attacks whenever he uses abilities. On top of this, these auto attacks also charge up his Q heal, which means he can cast another ability, creating an endless loop of empowered auto attacks and sustain. In lane, look to play aggressively versus squishy champions. Unfortunately, what may attribute to TARIC's low play rate is how easily it is to poke him out. You'll want to make sure that any trades you do take are heavy. Try using brushes to set up aggressive fights, otherwise play passively and try to scale up. Against melee champions, you can either free farm and trade back after your opponents engage, or play aggressively when you feel confident. TARIC is great for long fights since he'll be able to abuse his passive and healing. Just make sure that you have enough mana saved up to do so. Our last pick is going to be NAMI. She's held dominant win rates and play rates for several patches now, and the reason she isn't receiving nerfs is probably because players don't perceive her as an issue. She provides subtle strengths that don't appear problematic to play versus. It can be hard to clearly see why you're losing to one, especially because she's not as flashy as picks like Thresh or Pike. What Nami specializes in is her lane dominance and making her teammates better at everything they can provide. Her W is one of the best trading tools in the game, healing an ally or herself while simultaneously dealing a good amount of damage. After poking out her opponents, she can play aggressively with her lane partner to slow her opponents, lock them down with a bubble, and finish them off. Later on in the game, she provides great peel with her ultimate and helps her teammates kite, disengage, or chase with the utility of her CC and speed buffs. Especially when playing with aggressive marksmen like Twitch or Lucian, Nami's E is invaluable as the bonus movement speed and slows it provides will let them chase their adversaries down for kills. That concludes this episode of Underrated Picks. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to watch more content like this to help you improve, then please click that sub button. And if you guys really want to take your gameplay to the next level, then check out ProGuides.com using the description link below. Also, if you guys are interested in TFT, make sure to sub to our channel. We love to create content for you guys, and we're always looking for ways to improve, so please comment down below if you have any suggestions. Thank you guys so much for watching. Good luck in your next few games, and we'll see you on the Rift.